Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. I'm in the woods today. It is definitely colder than it has been the last week or so. It's like the cusp of autumn is here. It's really calm. There's a lot of, leaves are starting to fall. It's still pretty green, but it's really nice to know that autumn's not too far away. So this isn't going to be my usual video of going out and photographing a certain subject. I wanted to take an opportunity to go a little bit more in depth about my camera settings, my editing process, and any advice and tips that I've learned on the way that you can either take or leave. This month so far has definitely been one of reviewing my work so far this year, and it's kind of a reset for me. This time of year in the UK, there's a bit of a lull in between the end of summer going into autumn. So the birds will be going back south for the winter time, and we will be getting bird species from the north coming down for the winter. So that time in between, there isn't an awful lot going on in terms of wildlife. So I definitely see it as a time to reflect on the year so far and get myself prepped for any projects that I have set for the rest of the year. So for those of you who don't know already, my go-to camera equipment is my Canon 6D with my Sigma 150 to 600mm contemporary lens. It's my absolute go-to. I use it for any occasion, whether I'm out in the woods or I'm out at the beach or wherever. It is just my staple set of equipment. I also have a Manfrotto MK190X3 tripod with an MHX Pro fluid head. I shared this in a video quite a few months ago, so if you want more details on that, go and check out that video. I think it was back when I was filming at Frampton Marsh for the Blackwing Stilts this year, which was really exciting. But yeah, for more details on that, go watch that video. So I currently shoot with aperture priority. It's a function that I'm very happy to use for any situation. If the subject is fairly close, then I would use a lower number, normally f5.6 or 6.3. And I always pay attention to how far the background is from my subject when I use a low aperture. If your background is too close to your subject, then you're not going to get the depth of field that you wish. And then I would increase the number if I have a subject that's quite far away from me. If I was to keep it at a low aperture, then the camera wouldn't be able to gauge the distance of the subject from the background, and this can often lead to having quite a blurred image because the focus point isn't on the subject, it's anywhere within that really small shallow depth of field. So it's worth increasing your f-stop number when you're shooting a subject that's further away. I usually do the automatic setting for white balance, and I can always edit it when I get home, go through the images, edit it through my software. And then the colour I currently have is set on portrait. I don't know if this is how it's been from the start, but when I checked back over a few months ago, that was the setting that it was on, and it seems to be working for me. So with my general setup, I then go to how I want a photo to be shot, and this is where some of my tips come in, if you're interested in knowing about them. So when it comes to composition, I go for a rule of thirds. It really helps me to see where the subject is positioned in the frame. I would either position the subject to the left or the right hand side. It's not very often that I go for a centered shot. I like there to be a bit of space either side of my subject, and just to involve a little bit of the environment. It's always good to get eye level with your subject. If they are low to the ground, then get on the ground. It allows the viewer to have more of a connection with the subject. It's also worth considering what is going on in your background. Having a low aperture number can obviously help to blur out the foreground and the background, but if there's any objects or colours that are a bit too distracting for your subject, then if possible it is worth moving your position slightly so the colours or the objects in the background isn't distracting you from the subject you're photographing. Another important thing to consider is your lighting. Obviously, wherever you are throughout the day, if the sun is out, you are either going to have one of 4 lighting situations. So you've got your front lighting, where the sun is positioned up and behind you and coming down onto your subject in front of you. This can often reduce your shadows, and it might end up making your subject look really flat. So just something to keep in mind. You also got your side lighting, where the sun is either to your left or to your right hand side. This is where it can produce lots of texture and shadow on your subject, so it can add more depth. And then there's your backlighting, where the sun is behind the subject and coming down onto you. And this is really nice to use at golden hour, sunset time, where you can get a really nice silhouetted outline of things like a deer or even a bird. It's a really nice lighting to work with, but you're very limited on time, because sunsets and golden hour, you literally have 1 hour to get the shot, so you're a bit pressured, and it's something I've not really done a lot of. But now that the days are getting shorter, I'd like to maybe have the opportunity to use a bit of backlighting, and yeah, hopefully get some nice shots from that at some point in the future. So as a lot of people will know, wildlife photography does involve quite a bit of planning, especially if there's a subject that you want to look for in particular. You would have to literally do the research, see where they reside, when are they most active throughout the year, are they a migrating bird species, do they only come in the summer, do they only come in the winter. It might often result in doing multiple trips to get the shot that you want in mind. I've obviously been through that many times, but it's worth doing, having that commitment and the patience to get the image that you want at the end of the day. And if it means it turning into a week-long or even month-long project, then so be it. You definitely have to be committed to getting the images that you want, putting the effort in, doing the research, like I said. It's also worth looking at the weather situation, if you're wanting a clear day like I've got today, but it turns out that it's more likely to be cloudy, then you'll probably have to alter your plans if there is a certain lighting that you want. If you want it to be raining, again, you have to check the weather forecast for when it does rain. It just helps you be better prepared, and you have more likely the chance of getting the shots you want. Just another note, obviously wildlife is very unpredictable. It is often you won't get the shot straight away. So like I said, doing multiple trips or doing multiple shoots is absolutely worth doing, because the subject might not even appear. So I'll go to a little clip now of me back at home going through some shots that I took quite a few months ago or last year, and I'll show you a bit of my editing process. So this is not my usual setup, just to be clear. I do often just edit on my laptop. The screen is big enough to do that sort of wherever I want to, but every now and again I like to take the opportunity to use the larger monitor that my husband and I both share. So if you don't already know, my current editing software is PaintShop Pro with Corel. It's a system that I've used way back in college. Actually, it was the first time I discovered it, and then I not long returned to it for my own work, and it's just a software that is really easy for me to use. I like the facilities that it has for editing, so yeah, I thought I'd just give you a quick run through of my general editing process. So to begin with, I get this selection of how to edit my raw files. I edit from RAW and then save as a JPEG. So I have started to use the Aftershot Lab, just because, editing from RAW, if there's any adjustments I want to make before I get it on the workspace, I can do it here. So I've got a nice little setup of different adjustments that I can do. There's also automatic levels, that's way too bright, that you can use if you don't want to adjust it, all yourself. This is a picture I took last year, by the way. This was during the rut season at Richmond Park. just an image I've come across that I don't think I've edited before, so I thought why not do a different edit, and hopefully I will get to see them again this year, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, I often have a look at the exposure, see if I can adjust that slightly, bring out some of the darker tones in the background, or I can go and use the black setting, so I'll probably do about there. Vibrancy I sometimes bring up slightly, not too much. I want to keep it quite a natural colour, and if there's a fill light I want to adjust, then I can do that here as well. So yeah, it's looking alright, so I will go ahead, finish editing from there, and then it'll bring it up in my main workspace. So this is the complete workspace. There's also essentials and a photography based setup. I did used to use that before, but I kind of like going into more editing than what the Photoshop workspace provides. Photoshop? Photography workspace. So yeah, here we go, we've got it up here. And the first thing I always do is go to my crop. My general crop is 5:7, so I'll just go ahead, adjust it slightly. I do like using rule of thirds, so with where the stag is looking, I like to leave empty space in general to the direction that they're looking in. So probably I kind of want to keep that plant in as well. So keep the head central. Go with that. So I genuinely don't use layers. It's just something that I haven't adopted. I know quite a few people say, oh, you should use layers, but I just don't. And it's kind of a bit past me going to use layers. I know some people will say, you know, doing layers, it will help with better adjustments or something like that. But again, I just don't do layers. I like to do it from the original, and then if I want to do a complete re-edit, I can just go back to the original image and edit it from there. So first off, I would go to my digital noise removal, and I know this is quite a big thing in most wildlife photography settings. Things like Topaz Labs, I've heard quite a few photographers talk about that, but I really like the digital noise removal for this in Photoshop Pro. So just using it off here, hopefully you can see the difference where, you know, the sharpness and the eye is a lot more prominent here, and just the overall general sharpness is really good. It's blurred out the background nice and soft, and it has reduced the noise slightly back here, and I can adjust the sharpening here if I want to, make it a little bit more sharp. But yeah, I just genuinely like seeing the difference. First time I was like, wow, that's really cool. So it's the first thing that I use, so we'll go with that. So yeah, straight away I can see like how much sharper that is. And then I would often go to curves. That's on the last one. So again, I'll just go through, just play around, just see things like the mid-tones I'll bring up a bit, highlights I'll probably keep them quite up, and then if I want to adjust the darkness, I'll go down here. I don't want it too dark because I don't want to lose, like if I was to put it here, I can see this area is really dark, so I'll probably want to keep that where it is. And then I would look at my colour, so either the fade correction, if that works. I mean, that's reduced it quite a bit, like the colours are just not as vibrant as I want them to be, and I like to keep, you know, this was a morning, so this was the sun was rising, so it was quite warm anyway, so I'll probably keep that as it is, and I'll probably look again at the vibrancy, probably bring it down a touch. So yeah, just keep that warmth in. White balance I would look at as well, so just going and bringing it up slightly. That's a little bit cooler, but it still kept a little bit of the warmth in, so I'll just bring it up a touch. Yeah, so it's reduced it a bit, so the green's not as warm in colour, and there's still a little bit of warmth in there. And yeah, I just sort of have a look to see what could work with this. Sometimes I'll go to the photo effects, look at graduated filter or the vignette. So this is quite cool, I can sort of drag it over the subject like this, and it would blur out a lot more of the background, and it would brighten up this area as well, so I can adjust the brightness around the vignette. So I'll probably keep it up where it was. And yeah, it's just darkened this slightly, but it's kept the stag in a nice light. And if I'm to go back through from the beginning, so you can see before the digital noise removal there's like nothing there. But going up to vignette, you know, it's a little bit cooler, but it's still got a bit of warmth in there. And yeah, that's just the sort of general editing process that I go through. So you probably have noticed in this video there's been a bit of a style change to my videography. It's something I've wanted to improve for quite some time, and currently I'm just sort of experimenting with it, but I've really enjoyed getting some nice B-roll footage with a shallower depth of field, and to help you really immerse into the environments I'm in, and hopefully that shows through in this video, and it's something I want to keep on improving and keep on updating, so I can then share, you know, more videos that I'm even more proud of. So yeah, I'm always learning, and I think that's the thing with doing a creative subject like this. I'm always learning new things, and you can always learn new things as well, whether it's a profession that you are just starting in or you've done for years and years and there's something else you want to try within that. Then it's nice to always be constantly learning and improving. So I hope you've been able to take something away from this video with my current camera settings and just a few tips on how to get, you know, better shots, sharper shots. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all again very soon.